Alright, so we're going to make an ancient map, but the areas in between here are transparent, right? So the first thing we want to be aware of is we only want this area here, so we have to make sure that our unwrap faces this. So I'm going to right click, I'm just going to save this image off. I'll make a new folder called map. Throw this in here, and then drag this to the desktop. So we have it. And then inside of Maya, make a new scene. Now in respect to our unwrap, it's got a map. The map has got to equal the UVs have to look exactly like that. So let's go ahead and smooth this guy out so we get a sphere. And that's why it's important to use quads. So here, if I go to UV editor here, first thing I'm going to do is double click all the faces, and then on Z, go to planar map Z, and then I'm going to cut it for 1/2 the size. Shift right click, cut UVs to shell, unfold, and then smooth that out. And what you'll notice is that's the exact same shape roughly as our map. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just apply. I'm going to assign a new material. Let's go to material attributes. So it really locks on. I'm going to name this map texture. Make sure to select file from here. Select your file. Now go to image, display image, and then shaded UVs. So now when we select this, I'm going to hit 6. Let's make sure that I don't think the material got applied. So let's go to material attributes again. Yeah, it didn't apply. Sometimes it acts funny. There we go, file. Select this guy. Alright, let's select our sphere. You can see that the texture is there and it almost lines up perfectly. Now, these seams and stuff we're going to actually fix inside of Substance Painter. So let's smooth this out a little bit more. And we can do things like this, where I hit R and then B to turn on soft select. And this will allow it to not stretch too much because we're kind of transforming the whole thing. So I'm going to pull this in, and I'm just sort of moving these guys around the best I can. Now I don't want to warp the UVs too much because then we'll get some really ugly stuff going on. And I know that there's areas like this yellow here. I'm not too concerned about it because I'm going to repaint a lot of that. Because what we want is this area here. So the next thing I'm going to do is go to object mode, file, export all. Make sure FBX export is on. And then I'm going to turn on embed media. What that does is it locks in the UVs and the texture. And then on my desktop, I'm going to save that in map. I'll name this map here. All right, I'm going to pause and open sub. So now inside of Substance, I'm going to go to File, New, Select, go to my map, select that, hit OK. Now I need to grab that texture and bring it in on my shelf. So I'm just going to grab this guy and then drop it in, and then it's going to give me this prompt. So it's not undefined. I want it to be a texture. And then import for this current session, not all of them, because I'm not going to keep needing it. And you'll notice it'll take you right to it. Now the way to get this in here is you need a fill layer, and then you drag this onto the base color. Now it's going to look weird because the UV scale is off, so I'm going to make this 1. And actually I dragged it on metallic by accident. Let's do it one more time. Let's drag it on base color here. you can see it's here. Now on top of this, you can add a new layer, usually a blank one, and then look for areas like this that need to be tweaked. And in all honesty, I shouldn't have stretched the UVs because now you can see it's getting kind of funky, right? But I don't, in my personal, the example that I want on this thing is, yeah, I shouldn't have stretched it too much. I should have just lined it up. But what I can do just as an example is go in here and sample like whatever it is I want. So a little bit of this yellow. I can hit C for color so you can see that a little bit better. This beige color. And then I can just come in and start painting out anything that has nothing to do with the areas that I want. You know, so I'm just kind of cleaning up the seam. And then you can, you know, and it's up to you, like if you want to keep the lines or whatever, you know, so it's going to take a little bit of cleanup. So let's kind of go in here. And also another thing you want to do is make sure that you turn off tangent warp and just do UVs. So otherwise you'll have some issues. So just kind of like cleaning all this up. I mean, because this is all going to be transparent anyway, right? So I'm going to do kind of a quick and dirty approach to this where I'm just blocking this out. Actually, I can even probably, I'm going to hit F1 to, or F3 to highlight just this. And then just go in and sort of paint out these areas. Now, any of the lines that you want to keep, like say you're like, you know what, I really want to keep this line in there. What I'll do later, so once I painted all this out, you can just go in and add a white mask. And then on that layer, just really zoom in on that area and just paint that back in. So I go down here and I go to black to make it transparent again, and I just go in and I clean that up so I can re-add that. But you also want to do your best to never use a texture verbatim you found from the internet. So you'd create one more layer on top of this and then go in with like a much deeper brush like this. And then, with an almost black color. So let's take off everything except color. And then you want to re-outline or repaint that map. Because this always is going to look really awful, but if you look at how nice and rich that looks, so you always want to kind of paint in your own style. Plus it looks bad when you're talking to potential employers and they're like, why did you use an image verbatim? Like, can you not like do cleanup or can you not paint? All right, so let's take a look at how do we actually create the alpha for this thing. All right, so that's like some quick and dirty stuff. So if we go back to this guy, and then you can go back in here and look for any sort of issues with seam, right? We had this guy here, and then just sort of draw in those valleys and stuff. So you can see that. So once you've cleaned up that area, you've polished it, let's take a look. There's a couple ways of adding an alpha so that it's transparent inside of Unity. One way is once you're happy with this, you go into Photoshop here. And what I'm going to just send over for now is just the base color. I'm going to pause it while Photoshop open. So now that it's inside of Photoshop from Substance, what you want to do for the alpha is you want to go to Channels, add a new channel here. And then what I normally do is I fill it with white because that's transparent or visible. And then I turn on all of these layers. Now any area I want to be invisible, like completely invisible, in this alpha layer I make it black. Now say I only want it to be 50% gray. All right, so just to kind of like to show the example inside of Unity, I'm going to go ahead and just save that, do 50% gray here so you can see the difference here. All right, now let's go ahead and just so you can see sort of the thing, I'm going to go ahead and resave this as map texture, but really it's just going to be map underscore diffuse, and then I'm going to save this as a targa. And you want to make sure that you save it as a 32-bit targa. All right, now what I'm going to do is fire up Unity, and I'm going to load in my map model and this. All right, so inside of Unity, here's my map FBX file. Remember that we made an embed texture, so when I drag it into here, you'll notice that it has a texture on it. This is when we checked off embed media. The thing is right now, this is not the same texture that we created in Substance. So what we want to do is go back to our maps folder, grab that, grab the edited Photoshop file, right, which was the map underscore diffuse, drop that in there. And what you'll notice is once I drag this onto here, it's going to take onto the physical attributes of the model. So if I check on transparent, you'll notice that parts of it are transparent, like this, the one that was 50% gray. And then the part that's 100% invisible is here. Now, if you really want to see it, remove all specularity, and that'll make for much better texture. Now, another thing is that's pretty cool is now because you saved it as a Targa 32-bit, you can just double-click it from Unity and it'll open up. And it's actually a completely different file. So you want to make sure you close this one and you work only off of this one. So say I'm like, you know what, I want it to all be 100%. I'll go back to my alpha here and I'll just paint all of this out. And when I hit Control S, and I go back into Unity, it'll update it in real time. See that? Now let's take a look at another, how to get some really quick and easy normal maps. I'm going to go ahead and open up bitmap to material. So I'm going to hit Windows S and just type bitmap to material. Let's let that program fire up. Now you'll notice here it says drop bitmap here. Something that's cool is you can go to your map here and drag your map text object here and let's hit F to focus. Didn't link it. Here, where's geometry? Map. Well, let's just play with the sphere for now because it didn't seem to work. But if we go over here and we grab our texture that we created and drop that in here, and then we want to load that as main input tweak, you can see that it'll automatically give us sort of a roughness. And inside of relief, we can play with the intensity of that. So let's take this all the way up. Let's relief pinch. And let's just jump all the way up to 2048 so it gives us a much sharper image. And let's pinch that a little less. Let's go take this all the way down so that it's sitting right on the border. And then zoom out a little bit. It helps to see it. And you can hold shift and adjust the lighting. And what's nice too is you can adjust things like luminosity of your texture, you know, things like that. So if you increase your high frequency, this is kind of cool. It does the bigger shapes of your normal. So let's kind of zoom in a little bit so you can see that. You can see that the areas in between the lines are a little more defined, these larger chunks. The mid frequencies are for the blockier shapes. So as I increase this, you'll notice that the little bumpy areas of the relief map are starting to show. And then the low frequencies are the lines, like the detail in the lines. So if I'm moving this up, it's going to try to push them out. So normally with that, I pull it in the opposite direction. I go almost negative. You can see how it's really pushing that down in there. Because I can adjust it inside of Unity, I kind of tend to go a little bit extreme. So let's pull this up a little bit. That's way too extreme. And then all you have to do to get it into your other scene is right click. Or we can just go export as bitmap. And what I want is I just want my normal. And then the folder that I want it in is, I'll just throw it in desktop map. And I'm going to hit export. Let's make sure the texture size and everything. I don't want the opacity emissive. I don't want any of that, just this. And then hit, well, we'll leave bump ID on in case we need it. And then hit to close. Let's fire this guy up. You'll notice that they're all here. These are the different maps. And I think I threw some in here. Um, where is that other one? Oh, here they are. These are the two. So now I'll grab this guy, go back into my Unity project. Come on, Unity, fire up. There we go. Let's try that one more time. Let's grab this guy, drop him here. And now that's a nice add-on. It's going to ask you to fix it. And then what I tend to do is, because it's a little, see how it's still intense? You just pull your normal back a little bit. And I tend to, same thing. I'll jump between this and the other one inside of Unity.